So you formed your LLC. Now what? In this video, I'm going to give you 7 critical steps on what you need to do after you formed your LLC. You see, as a new small business owner, as a new LLC, most businesses get turned down due to the fact that your business is not properly structured, which means you haven't created a fundable foundation for these lenders, for these creditors to lend you any type of funding for your business. Now, I did a video on the steps you need to do before you file your LLC, which I'll leave somewhere up here. But this particular video is going to be based on what you need to do after you form your LLC, because most of you get stuck. I got an LLC. What do I do next? So this video is definitely for you. So you want to definitely listen up and let's dive right into it. You tracking me? Let's go. All right. So the first step you need to do after you formed your LLC, after you file with your Secretary of State, you need to get an operating agreement. Now, the operating agreement is important for a multitude of reasons. An operating agreement allows your business, allows lenders or bankers to see how your business is properly structured as far as who play what roles in your business, who's the president, who's the CEO, who's the manager. Also, financial responsibilities, who owns the company as far as percentage wise. Are you a single member LLC? Do you have a partner that owns a certain percentage of the company, such as you can bring in a partner? Here's the thing you probably don't know. Did you know you can bring in a partner, a credit partner, a CP? You can bring them in on your operating agreement. It's just paperwork. Remember, credit is all about perception. Do you look good on paper? So this is the importance of having an operating agreement. You can bring in a credit partner that has really good credit profile. You can bring them in as majority of ownership, maybe 90-10, 80-20. And did you know you can get funding based off your credit partner? In fact, I did a whole video on that, so you can go back and watch that video. It's called The Credit Partner. So you want to watch that video too as well. But that's the importance of having an operating agreement. Now, also, it shows the profit. Maybe that partner only gets 20% profit, you get 80% profit. Again, the importance of having an operating agreement. Now, in some states, it's required for you to have an operating agreement. Some states is not. So depending on what state you live in, what I mean required, I mean, even to open up a business checking account, you have to have a operating agreement, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. Now, so that's step number one, get an operating agreement. Step number 2, you want to make sure that you have an EIN, employer identification number. It's essentially your social security number to your business. For tax reasons alone, you want to have an EIN. Now, again, I'm not a professional tax accountant. I'm not a tax preparation person. I'm just all from experience, just advice, right? But you obviously need an EIN. You want to do that after you file your LLC, not before. A lot of people do that backwards. Get an EIN, then get your LLC. No, get your LLC, then get your EIN, right? One of the several steps. Now, EIN is important for tax reasons. Also, you need to make sure that in order for you to open up a business checking account, you have to have an EIN. In order for you to file for any type of business credit or business funding or business loans, you need to have your EIN, so which is really important. So we want to make sure that we have our EIN, which is a given. I'm sure most of you know that, right? Okay. Now, after you have your operating agreement and your EIN, you also want to open up a business checking account, because technically you're not in business until you open up a business checking account. I get this all the time. Hey, I've been on paper. I filed my LLC for 5 years, but I just opened up a business checking account a year ago. Well, technically you're only in business for a year to lenders and creditors out there. Not from my perspective, but to lenders. Why? Because it shows that you are an established business owner when you have a business checking account, because they understand now you separating your personal finances from your business finances, which is really important when you file your taxes. And we're going to get into that a little bit later. But having a business checking account, it allows lenders also to keep up with your payment data, your transaction history, which is really important. So we want to make sure that we have a business checking account, right? So that's step number 3. Step number 4, after we have our operating agreement, after we file our EIN, after we have a business checking account, now we're ready to start building business credit, aka getting business trade lines. Now, I talk about this a lot. It's a strategic way that you want to start building business credit. Most of you go out there and start building business credit strictly on vendors and supplier trade lines. You know what I'm referring to? The net 30 accounts, right? The Quill, the Granger, the Uline. You build business credit strictly just off that, which you're doing not only yourself, but you're doing your business a disservice. Because lenders and creditors don't care about vendors or supplier trade lines. Then London, what do they care about? Good question. I'm glad you asked. They care about financial trade lines. So you want to build your business credit profile. You want to add the proper business trade lines, such as financial trade lines, like a secure business credit card is a financial trade line. Another financial trade line is an unsecured business credit card, or a business installment loan is another one, or a business auto loan. These are all financial trade lines, right, that you can start building business credit off on. And you can have some supplier trade lines on there to start building business credit, but you want to have a diverse trade lines. That's what I'm referring to. So we want to make sure we properly build business credit. Now, I got a lot of videos on business credit trade lines you can go back and watch, but that's step number 4. You want to start adding those business trade lines on there, right? So now, here's the thing about business trade lines. We want to make sure that we, again, do it to a point where we position our business credit profile to get funding. So, which means you want to make sure that the trade line that you add on there reports to Equifax and Experian business. Not necessarily your Dun & Brad. Most of you are focused on your payday score, but you need to be focused on the other 2 business credit bureaus, such as Equifax and Experian. So we want to make sure we do that. So adding the right business trade lines is really important too, right? So that's step number 4. Now, step number 5 is really important that a lot of you gloss over, which means you have to have a payroll provider. Now, here's the great thing about it. I'll partner with ADP. I'm going to do a whole video alone on this, but I partner with ADP, which is the #1 payroll provider in the whole US. And the reason why you want to have a payroll, for a multitude of reasons, but again, I want to position your business to get the best funding as possible. I don't want you to be limited. So if you don't have a payroll provider, you are limiting yourself, right? Because a payroll provider provides what? Revenue. Remember, I always states business, or I should say lenders and creditors, only care about 2 things: your willingness to pay them back and your ability to pay them back. Your ability had to do with your revenue. So if you show these lenders and creditors that you have revenue coming in, such as payroll, then you most likely can get not only the smaller loans, unsecured business credit cards or a small business loan, but you can go after the bigger loans like an SBA loan or a micro loan, right? You can go after those loans, macro. You can go after those type of loans because you have payroll. And here's the thing I'm going to tell you about having a payroll provider, which is really important. One of the things that you can do is you can have double the income. So not only your business is bringing in revenue when you turn in your financial statements, like your P&L statements, your cash flow statements, but when you paying yourself or you paying your employers, but particularly if you're trying to get funding, because remember, this is all for funding, but if you're paying yourself a paycheck, then now you have double income. So not only you showing what your business revenue is bringing in monthly, annually, etc., but you also telling these lenders that this is the amount you're bringing in from a personal perspective, from your personal payroll. So that's how you get double the income. All right, so we'll talk more about that on a separate video again. But having a payroll provider, in some states, you need a payroll provider. First of all, and ADP is perfect for that. So I'm going to leave a link in the description, because if you go with payroll, if you follow my link that's in the description, you also get up to 30% off. In addition to that, you get up to 3 months off for free. So you definitely want to click on that link and get ADP, get a consultation with them. Again, I'm going to do a whole video on that. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. But payroll is really important when you're trying to get a business loan. Now, when you get unsecured business credit cards, it's a different story, but you still want to have payroll because they might do an audit in your business to determine if you're really making that money. Because, I talk about projected income and stated income on my previous videos. But in some cases, they will do an audit, just depend on your business, depend on what you put down in the business credit application, depends on a lot of things. So depending on how you properly using that credit card. So we want to be mindful of that. So we want to have all our ducks in a row. Even if you're trying to get an apartment or a car or something like that, you need payroll. It's really important. Again, we're going to talk about that a little bit later. Now, that's number 5, right? So number 6, what we want to make sure we have when it comes to these steps after we form our LLC, we want to make sure that we file our taxes. Now, I'm not going to get much into this, but filing your taxes is really important because when you're trying to get business lines of credit, when you're trying to get loans, they want to see majority of the time, if not 1, but 2-year tax returns. So filing your taxes is really important. Again, this is from a funding perspective. We should know also filing our taxes because we have to pay taxes, things of that nature. So again, I'm not going to get into that, but from a funding perspective, you can open yourself up to more funding capabilities if you file your taxes because most banks will cap you off at a certain amount. It may be 30,000, it may be 40. It can go all the way up to 50,000 if you haven't filed your taxes, but you won't get beyond 50,000 if you can't show any financial records like payroll or tax records, 1 or 2 years, just depending on the bank. So filing your taxes is essential. Next and last, what we're going to go to the last step, number 7, is we need to make sure that we renew our articles of organization. Something very simple, but believe it or not, a lot of new LLCs, business owners do not renew their articles of organization. So if I was to look up your business right now, I can determine if it's active or if it's not active, which means you haven't renewed every year. You have to renew your articles of organization. So if I filed in April, my LLC with my Secretary of State, I need to make sure that next year, the following year, I need to pay that fee. Now, it's a fee depending on what state you live in. It can be $50, $75, it can be $150, $200. Just depends on the state that you live in. Right? Determine that fee that you need to pay. But you may have to pay a fee every single year to renew your articles of organization. If your articles of organization is not renewed, you're going to automatically get turned down for any type of funding. Why? Because you're not an established business owner. Remember, it's all about perception. Do you look good on paper? So by having an active LLC, we look good on paper. Now, here's the thing that can help with that. If you go with a company called Inc. Authority, which I also partner with, you can file your LLC for free, but you also can get your EIN for free. And they will give you an operating agreement and a registered agent. So I talked about that in my previous video, what you need to do before you file your LLC. You can find that also in my video profiles. So in my profile, in my videos, right? But you get what I'm saying. But you want to make sure that if you go with Inc. Authority, they will help you with all that. So you definitely want to partner with them. Remember, we want to be efficient and effective as possible. So having other companies that can help us with that, like filing without directly going through our Secretary of State, we can go with Inc. Authority. They help you with the filing, do basically everything for you. All you got to do is answer a couple of questions. All right, guys. So that's my 7 steps you need to take after you formed your LLC. I hope this video was very informative, and make sure you make sure you subscribe to the video if you haven't already, and I will see you on the next video. Peace out.